RevDivers. Welcome back to RevDive. Kem and I took a hiatus on this bad boy, didn't we, Kem?
We really did.
It has been so challenging with all of like the changing regulations that are going on in the industry, all of the staffing challenges, tech challenges, rev cycle challenges, which obviously is why we have the podcast. And never mind that we are actual human beings with families to take care of, right? And we have personal stuff that happens. And so we are super happy to be back on the air and talking to all of our lovely rev divers again.
Yeah, it's really great to be back. Um, I actually made some changes, and one of my dear friends and a private chef in New York, he said, Kim, I love, your work ethic and you're such a professional person, but your office looks like you're a 12-year-old boy. You have all this stuff,
No.
personal stuff. And I said, well, I like to feel, I like to be myself when I'm working. And
Absolutely.
but I did do a little rearrangement. I still have R2D2 in the background, to give my little personality. But yeah, I think over the past few months, just trying to keep up with what's going on in the industry and helping folks out, you still want to make sure that you're comfy in your own skin and in your own environment. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I adore this for you. I love this for you. It is very your style. Just knowing who you are. This is
Yeah.
very much your vibe that I'm getting just in general from what you have shown here. I know that you're a gigantic Star Wars nerd. I am just a huge nerd in general, and I have absolutely no desire for my office to ever not reflect that. So it's so funny to me because we actually have the same sign, be a voice, not an echo, but it's
Oh,
totally different.
shut
So
up. I'd never realized that. So this was
I didn't
actually on
either.
another wall. Shut up.
I know. I never realized that either.
That's
But
so
you know what?
funny.
Like I have a troll doll. I have some of my video game memorabilia in here with the MBA and some of my favorite healthcare books. I also have toys from my toddler in here. And I think that it's just so reflective of who we are that you are like in a knit sweater with a collar and I'm in a hoodie, right? That's very much our personalities. And it's funny because it's something we don't often show when we're not speaking in person, but something that we intend to bring more to RevDive so you guys can get to know us a little better and the crazy stuff that we're dealing with day to day. I think the number of calls we're getting on a daily basis
Yeah.
have just super ramped. And Kem, you got a crazy one this morning that it's not a crazy call, but it's crazy how many people are telling us the same thing.
Yeah. So this actually started last night. We're working with a physician who is just really struggling with staffing. And part of the struggle is just making sure that workflows and efficiencies match the needs of their particular practice. And having another discussion this morning with the practice manager, she has a ton of resumes for, medical receptionists. And she just can't find anyone that fits her needs. And, part of my suggestion is to think outside of the box when you're recruiting, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, in a specialist practice, we need to have someone who has triage experience. And I,
Hmm.
I know for me, when I started out my career in healthcare, the first thing I did was answer phones. And let me tell you,
You
answering the
learn a
phones
lot
at
that way.
Oh my gosh, in a cardiologist's office and seeing the medical records that were handwritten and it said SOB, I'm like, doctor,
You
how
really
dare
didn't
how
like that patient. You will learn a
but
lot that way for sure.
you really do, right? But it also kind of speaks to the fact that, we want to think outside of the box with recruiting. And there might be folks who have background that may not typically be the type of background that we would consider for a certain position, But
Very true.
those skills provide an opportunity in another department. So for this conversation that we were having, there were some medical billers who had applied for other positions, and I was like, okay, well, you're short staffed in your billing office, right? You need right now, you're hiring for a medical receptionist. How about looking at the medical biller position, the medical biller resumes, and seeing whether or not an individual is interested in having an opportunity at the front desk? Now, obviously, we don't want it to appear to be like a step down, right? But I feel like there are opportunities that we can create within our organizations that allow us to leverage skills from different departments in the departments that we really are struggling in.
I absolutely agree. And I think it also lends to understanding sort of the culture of your organization and the individuals that you're hiring and how well they will fit into that culture of your organization. So if you have a bunch of resumes and that position gets filled and you reach out to folks and say, hey, this position actually got filled, but we really enjoyed meeting with you. We'd still like you to be a part of our team. We'd love for you to apply for this position. If you have folks that are like, you know what, yeah, I'll apply for that position. That what that tells me is that you're really interested in coming to work with us at our facility, regardless of how you come to us. You're really interested in that. So it also gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the individuals you're hiring and how flexible they are in terms of what they're doing. Are they a team player, right? Kind of a thing.
Yeah. And you know what? That brings me to our skills gap um, discussions. I know that you and I have
Yes.
been really kind of putting a lot of effort into developing skills gap assessments and skill gap solutions. And we're going to be speaking about that in an upcoming conference with MGMA. But really thinking about where are the gaps in either skills or opportunities or resources in your organization so that you can find
Yeah.
ways to fill those gaps with resources, with additional training and education, with additional processes, with the use of technology. So I think kind of prioritizing skills gaps assessments in 2023 are really going to help our
Mhm.
organizations really meet some of the needs and fill some of those gaps.
I absolutely agree. And I think when you are in the leadership position, it's your responsibility to do those skills gap assessments. And I say that as a leader, right? I'm trying to regularly with my staff make sure that I'm understanding, okay, what skills do you have and where do you need extra support from me? It goes all the way back to that, you don't know what you don't know kind of a mantra. But so many things in healthcare that, saying, oh, I didn't know that is not an excuse. They do not care. When you look at like certain oversight bodies and regulatory bodies, under HHS and like OIG and CMS and all of those, if you're not adhering to certain regulations, because you didn't know it, quote unquote, that's not an excuse. So for me, as a supervisor and a leader, I need to understand what my team does not know and get them educated on what they don't know, because not knowing it is not an excuse, but they may not have the experience that I have to recognize that that's an area that they even need education in, right? And so that's part of why these skill assessments and skill gap assessments are so incredibly important, especially for revenue cycle management.
And taking that a step further, just thinking about the folks who are in leadership, even us. There
Yes.
are going to be opportunities for us to increase our skills, right? Like some of the research that we've done on certain topics in the books that we've authored, the articles that we've published. We had to do a little digging to make sure that we really understood certain topics. So we don't know everything, right? And so I think it's important for us as leaders to be okay with
Mhm.
that, right? Be okay
Yes.
with not knowing everything, but then also kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, where are my skills gaps? Where are the areas that I want to improve in? I know, like when we're going to get certain certifications and we're taking tests, it's easy to identify those skills gaps, right? And because you're
Right.
not doing too great on certain areas of the, of the exam, But it's a good idea for us as leaders to recognize the areas that we need help in, and prioritize our own professional development.
Absolutely agree. And I have, so, Kem and I were both big fans of having mentors and being mentors, right? You never stop learning. And I have someone that I'm mentoring right now, a young woman who is extremely promising in the revenue cycle area. She's a very, very intelligent, very skilled. I'm just very proud too of what she's accomplished. She has two things right now she's working on, and one is different communication styles, because her background is primarily coding and billing. She's a very blunt, very direct person. And you know how much physicians love that when you come in and say, this is wrong, right? And so we're working on communication styles. But the other thing we're working on touches on exactly what you just said. We can't all know everything, and we're not supposed to. And you have to be okay with that. So one of the conversations we recently had, she's having a challenge in a particular area with getting a document completed and into the system. And I said, where are you at with that? And she said, well, I still don't understand their entire workflow in this department. And I said, you don't have to. You need to understand at a high level what's happening in that department. And then you need to meet with their team lead and have a collaborative discussion. Hey, this is the problem that I'm having. I know this is an area that you guys focus in. I don't know, boots to the ground at the desk, what you guys are doing to get through every step of your workflow, but like, can you help me solution for this? And you have to be okay with that conversation. So I love that you brought that up. You have to be okay with not knowing everything. You're not supposed to, right?
Yeah. When we talk about not knowing everything, it's interesting because as healthcare leaders, everyone comes to us with
Yes.
all the problems. The physicians come to us with the problems. The staff come to us with the problems.
Yeah.
The patients and their families come to us with the problems. We're kind of like air traffic control for our facilities, right?
And the
And
therapist of the office, we are USPS, we are HR, we are OSHA, we are the whole kit and caboodle in that position. Absolutely.
we're also the tech, the IT. I am not an IT
Yes.
person, but somehow I have to troubleshoot printers and you name it,
Which is terrible.
passwords.
No one should put you in that position. Nobody should have Kem troubleshooting anything.
It's
Okay.
not fair with IT. But it, but when you think about that, there's also a level of credibility as leaders that we need to
Yes.
have, whether we know the answer or not, right? So, being able to have resources that we can go to, and that's a huge component
Mm,
of a successful healthcare leader, is
I
knowing who
agree.
your resources are, right? So, like for coding, AAPC, AHEMA, these are some of the resources that we can go to get our coding questions answered. When you're thinking
Mm,
about compliance, the OIG, so we have to, I think as healthcare leaders, although we can't possibly know everything, we must know where to go. We must know where to go to get
absolutely.
the answer. And we need to have that credibility from top down, from physician owners to executive level to the file clerk and the document management staff and those individuals who are looking up to us, so making sure that we have a really tight network, and
Yes.
that we can identify those resources.
I completely agree. There's a saying, and we've heard it tons, but that jack of all trades, king of none, right? If you know how to do a little bit of something, you haven't achieved mastery in anything. And I think I love that's such kind of a negative phrase, and I love to look at it from a different perspective. And really, if you are like the jack of all collaboration, right? You collaborate with everybody in and around your facility and other facilities for inspiration. I think that's how you become the master of direction setting for your organization. So I think, as opposed to looking at like, hey, if I'm the individual person taking care of all of these tasks, then I can't learn mastery of all of these tasks. That's fine. Instead, why don't we just collaborate with people who do have individual mastery? And it's so funny to me that as practice administrators and leaders that we feel this need to understand and have mastery in every single area, because we don't even do that in healthcare. If we didn't do that in healthcare, we wouldn't have all these different specialties. People wouldn't be board certified in these highly specialized areas. So as an industry, we recognize that no one can know everything, but for some reason we still feel like we have to.
I know. And, I think that's part of the obstacle that we have to overcome is feeling that we have to
Yeah.
know everything. However, there are so many resources out there. Like you and I, when we're trying to put together, a financial
Yes.
control chart, there are so many different organizations that we're going to get benchmark data, to get KPI data.
Yes.
And it's important for us to recognize where those resources are, but then also sharing them, right?
Yes.
So, part of the interesting, thought of being a leader is you do want to be that go-to person, but you also want to build people up, right? Because
Yes.
in my opinion, I'm not doing my team any justice if I'm the smartest person in the room and if I'm the only person
Agreed.
that knows how to get the answer. That's not a great leader. And I'm sorry, to say that, and it's my
I totally
opinion.
agree.
Yeah, right. I mean, so if you are trying to, kind of conserve and secure your position by hogging and holding all of the information, you're stifling your organization. And the
Yes.
successful leaders share information. I learned something. The entire team's going to know about it. I do not want to be the only person because I'm taking that information from a strategic perspective. My biller's taking
Yes.
that information from a revenue cycle perspective. My compliance person is taking it from a regulatory perspective. They're protecting us. So when we share that information, it allows each person to use that information based on the role that they play in our organizations.
Well, and so many times you and I both go into facilities where, that information is not being shared, right? And the individuals who are working on prior auth don't have an access to the full list of NPIs and like just weird situations. And the question is always the same. What is the problem with sharing this information? Why are you so hesitant to share it with your staff? What is it that you think that they're going to do with this information? Because when you start that culture of like cloak and dagger information, you start to create a culture of secrecy in your own organization, and why is that occurring? That's not what we want. We want transparency. We want to be working fluidly together. We want those nice, clean, visible, well communicated handoffs, whether it's in clinical care or administrative work. So why would we have anything be super cloak and dagger? Now, if it's Christmas bonuses, holiday bonuses, fine, keep that secret, right? But there's no reason that your billing manager shouldn't have access to the fee schedules that are listed in your payer contracts. And we've seen that as well. So just, sharing that information, passing that knowledge forward and documenting it. God forbid something happened to any of us leaders who haven't been passing that knowledge on. It happens often. A couple of years ago, I was working with a facility. They had the same administrator. She'd been there for 30 years. She passed away unexpectedly, almost 30 years, like 27. She passed away unexpectedly, and they were in a complete lurch. They found a great new hire. They brought her into the role. She had no idea where anything was. You have to pass that knowledge on. And if there's nobody to pass it on to, you have to document it somewhere, or everything you've been doing is for naught, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
didn't document it, you didn't do it.
that's right. That's what we say in coding. So this has been an interesting conversation, and I kind of feel like
Yeah.
this is a precursor to what we're going to be able to provide in 2023 on RevDive podcast. We have a ton of really valuable resources and industry experts that we like to share. And that's one of the reasons why we created this podcast, is because we want to share as much information as
Yes.
possible with you guys, with Rev Divers. And it's really such a pleasure and an honor for us to be able to connect with you guys on, this level of, information sharing and motivation and building up each other. And we really look forward to the things that we're going to be sharing with you in 2023.
Absolutely. So continue to send us your questions. We love to answer them live on the podcast. and continue to say hi to us when we see you places. We saw a lot at the last conference we were at. We saw a lot of people who were like, I'm a rev diver. We love that. So please, please continue to do that. That makes us so happy.
Yes. And, we're on social media, we're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of really fun and informational and inspirational guests this year. So until we meet again, Rev Divers, keep diving into those Rev cycles.